when you're listening to a musical setting, the word goes by according to the rhythms notated in the score, and you don't really have a chance to kind of enter into the imaginative space of the idea behind the word fully. However, I think Copland felt it was his job as the composer to guide you in an understanding and interpretation of the words, which are sometimes cryptic. Emily Dickinson does talk about I, especially in the very last song, The Chariot. She says, because I could not stop for death, death kindly stopped for me. So it's very much first person. But in many other songs, there's no mention of her at all. The first song, Nature, the Gentlest Mother, refers to nature as a personification, and squirrels and birds and trees, who are important figures in Emily Dickinson's landscape. In other songs, she refers to we, which is interesting. If you know anything about Emily Dickinson, you know that she lived as a recluse with her family for her entire life. And we seems to refer to her, maybe she and her siblings. In the song Going to Heaven, she says, for you know that we don't mind our dress when we are going home. And that sounds like something out of childhood, something that her parents may have taught her, her mother may have taught her. So there is this very interesting persona who sometimes seems childlike, who sometimes seems to be in direct conversation with God or with a higher being, although she admits that she doesn't really fully believe in God. She says in the song Going to Heaven, I'm glad I don't believe it, but I'm glad they did believe it, whom I have never found on that mighty since that mighty autumn afternoon when I left them in the ground, obviously referring to the death of her parents. Glad that her parents believed, not sure that she believes. Interesting kind of ambivalence and dynamic that runs through the ideas of the poetry as a whole. So I think that this brings me to Aaron Copland. Copland wrote music in many different forms. He's best known for ballets and some other works like his Third Symphony, The Lincoln Portrait, El Salón Mexico. These are extremely popular works, but he actually has a larger catalog, including many works that are not well known. And there are chamber pieces, lots of solo piano music. However, there are very few songs. And I think the last song he wrote before he did these Emily Dickinson songs were written 22 years earlier. So during those 22 years, he was very busy, with one exception. He wrote a song in 1934 called Into the Streets May 1st, which won a kind of a Communist Party music contest. That got him in a lot of trouble later. He said he wasn't a communist, but he produced this very effective song that, was judged to be very effective for demonstrations. It was not his proudest achievement. So why did he suddenly, in 1950, decide to do a setting of 12 Emily Dickinson poems? He had already written the ballet Appalachian Spring, which was inspired in part by the Shakers. He had come to the Berkshires in 1940 to be on the faculty of Tanglewood, and he encountered Shaker Village. He encountered the tune Simple Gifts, which is the core tune of the ballet score of Appalachian Spring. And so in some sense, he had encountered New England, and in a way, the Emily Dickinson songs were the last pieces that he wrote in what you might call his more popular style, more accessible tonal style. And then he turned to writing 12-tone music in his own unique way and produced some masterpieces that most people don't listen to. But these are pivotal works. And I think what attracted him to these songs was the challenge. First of all, was the personality and the thinking, the ideas of Emily Dickinson, but also this incredibly concentrated language, which challenged him to express the essence of the poetry in a short space of time. Most of these songs are 2, 3, or 4 pages at most. They're quite short, but they're loaded with music. I have to say, the piano parts are incredibly interesting to play. They're not in any way garden variety voice accompaniment. We're really engaged in a constant conversation, sometimes 2 or 3 parts going in the piano and 1 part in the voice. And Copland obviously had a very, very strong, visceral, emotional reaction to the figure of Emily Dickinson, and of course, these are 12 poems that are collected out of hundreds of possible poems that he had access to. He was using the edition that was basically prepared by Emily Dickinson's sister-in-law, Mabel Loomis Todd, which were somewhat different from the originals. And a couple of words got changed here and there, and some of the orthography is a little bit different. But he still had access to hundreds, and he selected these 12, and he selected the order. So this really is Copland's Dickinson portrait. He did a Lincoln portrait, and here is his Emily Dickinson portrait.
And a green chill upon the heat so ominous did pass. We barred the window and the door as from an emerald ghost. The drum's electric moccasin that very instant passed. On a strange mob of panting trees and fences fled away, and rivers where the houses run, the living looked that day. The bells within the steeple wild the flying tidings word. How much can come and much can go, and yet abide the world. Why did they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud? But I can sing a little minor, timid as a bird. Wouldn't the angels try me just once more? Just see if it troubled them, but don't shut the door, don't shut the door. Oh, if I were the gentleman in the white robes, and they were the little hand that knocked, could I forbid, could I forbid, could I forbid? Why did they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud? The world feels dusty when we stopped to die. We wanted young on earth's taste dry. Floods vex a dying face, but March, come in. How glad I am. I've looked for you before. Put down your hat. You must have walked. How out of breath you are. Dear March, how are you? And the rest. Did you leave nature well? Oh, March, come right upstairs with me. I have so much to tell. I got your letter and the birds. The maples never knew that you were coming. I declare how red their faces grew. But March, forgive me, and all those hairs you left for me to hew. There was no purple suitable. You took it all with you. Who knocks? That April. Lock the door. I will not be pursued. He stayed away a year to call when I am occupied. But trifles look so trivial as soon as you have come, and blame is just as mere as praise, and praise as mere as blame. does not know what passing one may be tomorrow. But if I am there, I take back all I say. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading till it seemed that Sans was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service like a drum kept beating till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift a box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again. Then space began to toll as all the heavens were above. And in that unease, and I and silence, some strange race wrecked solitary here. I've heard an organ talk sometimes in a cathedral aisle, and understood no word it said. Yet held my breath the while, and risen up and gone away. A Bernardine girl, and know not what was done to me in that old hallowed aisle. Going to heaven, going to heaven, going to heaven. I don't know when. Pray do not ask me how. Indeed, I'm too astonished to think of answering you. to heaven. How dim it sounds. And yet it will be done, as sure as flocks go home at night unto the shepherd's arms. Perhaps you're going to, who knows? If you should get there first, save just a little place for me, close to the tomb I lost. The smallest room will fit me, and just a bit of crown. We know we do not mind a dress when we are going home. Going to heaven, going to heaven. I'm glad I don't believe it, for it would stop my breath. And I'd like to look a little more at such a curious earth. I am glad they did believe it, whom I have never found, since that mighty autumn afternoon I left them in the ground. Because I would not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove. He knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children played, their lessons scarcely done.